Hello and welcome to our online orientation for Parish and School Safe Environment Coordinators of the Diocese of Manchester. So during this training, here's what we'll be covering. First of all, we will talk about your role as a Safe Environment Coordinator. I'll briefly cover some important websites that you should know about and some acronyms that we typically use. I'll go through and letting you know exactly what the safe environment requirements are and who needs to complete them. I will also briefly touch upon the Safe Environment Database, and I'll tell you about some resources of the office and how to obtain further assistance. So it can often be that when you start in a new position, people are using acronyms and you have no idea what they mean. So here on this slide, we just have a few of the acronyms that we typically use. So for example, SEC is how we refer to Safe Environment Coordinators. SED is our Safe Environment Database. CRR refers to the form that we use for criminal record checks. And also we sometimes just refer to it as a CRR as a background check. And Safe Haven is our child abuse prevention training that is required of all employees and any volunteers that work with children. There are also a number of websites that you'll be using as a Safe Environment Coordinator, and they are listed here. Don't feel that you need to write all of these down. We will be providing a list of these to you, and we also have a PDF of this presentation that is available to you upon request. But just quickly, anytime you go to www.catholicnh.org and then a / you can get to different types of web pages. So /safety are all of the child safety pages of the Diocese of Manchester. Forms and links are found there, and I will be presenting you with a couple of other more specialized links throughout the presentation. Our database is located at the next URL, rcbmnh.org. Our training is located at the one that you see next. So again, we have some easy ways to get to that. The Sex Offender Registry site where you will be conducting sex offender registry checks is at nsopw.gov. And the last link is very important. It is where you will be sending all volunteers so that they complete everything they need to do to work around children. So you're probably wondering exactly what your role is as a Safe Environment Coordinator. It really is an important one. So as a Safe Environment Coordinator, you will be assisting the pastor at your parish or the principal at your school in making sure that all the adults who are either employed or the volunteers who regularly work with minors have completed the required background checks, screening, and training. You'll also be collecting some forms and particularly sending background checks to the Diocesan Safe Environment Office. You'll be updating our Safe Environment Database on a regular basis so that we all know who your current employees and volunteers are. And at times you'll also be asked to distribute special materials to parents, volunteers, and employees, and you'll be a source of information for people at your parish or school who have questions. So I want to thank you. It really is an important role. We value you as a Safe Environment Coordinator, and we are here for you. So thank you very much. Now I'm going to go through what the Safe Environment requirements actually are, and then we'll go through each of them one by one. So first of all, everyone needs to complete an application. Employees will complete employment applications and volunteers will complete volunteer applications. You as the coordinator, as I mentioned just a moment ago, will be checking each name on the National Sex Offender Registry. All employees and everyone who volunteers around minors needs to complete background checks, and these will vary according to their position. Everyone needs to complete online training, particularly the safe environment training, but also additional trainings depending upon their role. And during that training, they will be signing our code of conduct. And as I just mentioned, all employees who work at the parish or the school are required to complete safe environment requirements, and this is regardless of their position or how many hours they work. So all school employees and all parish employees, even music ministers, etc., do need to complete safe environment requirements. In addition, any volunteer who has regular contact with minors needs to complete safe environment requirements. So as you can see on this screen, volunteers are considered to have regular contact with minors if they are age 18 or older, and their assigned duties include overseeing minors. Please read this additional information as it appears on the screen so that you'll understand exactly which volunteers do need to complete safe environment requirements. So as you know, there are many types of people who serve as volunteers in our parishes and schools. These include coaches, Boy Scout leaders and adult partners if the troop is sponsored by a parish, religious education or faith formation volunteers at a parish, and student teachers and interns at our Catholic schools, altar server trainers, music group leaders, and parent helpers. So really anyone whose responsibilities include overseeing minors does have to complete safe environment requirements. Before we move on, I want to assure you that we have plenty of resources for you that will help you with implementation. In fact, we have a whole section of our website dedicated to supporting safe environment coordinators. The site is found at www.catholicnh.org/coordinators. So be sure to check out that section after you watch this training, and you will find that a lot of the things I've been talking about are available there for you. Now I will be reviewing what each employee and volunteer needs to complete in terms of safe environment requirements. The first requirement for all adults who work with minors and all employees is to complete an application. Volunteers complete a volunteer application and employees complete an employment application. So volunteers can complete their application online at the site that is shown here, catholicnh.org/volunteer. When they go to this webpage, they will be able to view a message from the bishop, and then they'll be able to click on the application that they wish to complete, which will be the parish application or the school volunteer application. Once they complete the application and click submit, that application will be forwarded to the Diocesan Safe Environment Office by email. Once we receive it, we will forward that to you, and you should review it and then file it at your location. Currently, employees complete their employment applications by printing them from the Diocese of Manchester webpage. This process may change in the future, and we will let you know of any changes as they arise. Please note that any safe environment forms you need, including the paper-based employment and volunteer applications, may be accessed from catholicnh.org/forms. So employees will need to print their application from this webpage. We do also have the volunteer application in paper format, but we recommend using the electronic form that I just showed you. It's much easier and it results in much fewer errors on the form. Either way, once you receive an application, whether it's a volunteer application or employment application, you're going to want to look at particular items on the form. So first of all, please take a look at the section that asks whether the volunteer has lived out of state. If they have, this is an indicator that they will need to complete additional background checks. Next, take a look at what we call the screening questions. This looks different on depending on what form is being filled out, but there is always a screening form section. Double check to see if the person has any yes answers to the screening questions. The questions do ask about arrests or accusations involving harming others. So if there is a yes answer, you will want to notify the Safe Environment Office right away. On volunteer applications for parishes, you'll want to know whether the person has been a parishioner for 6 months. If they have not, then they are required to provide a reference from their previous parish. And last, take a look and make sure that the person signed and dated their application, as they are agreeing by signing and dating that everything on the application is true. Employees complete the type of application that applies to them, such as school teacher, school administrator, or parish employee. While these forms do vary, there are some common areas that we want to cover. In this slide, you can see a screenshot of the parish employment application, which has 4 pages. The school applications are similar, but they do look a little different. So pages 1 and 4 of the employment application are the areas that will need your scrutiny. Here on the first page, you see that there's a question about out-of-state residents right here. And in addition, the screening answers are towards the bottom of page 1. They sometimes do spill over to page 2. So you want to look at out-of-state residents and any yes answers to make sure to determine whether you need any follow-up. Here's a screenshot of the school employment application. It does have a field for out-of-state residents, but schools do not need to worry about that because school employees are fingerprinted and that covers all states. So even though that field is on the school employment application, don't worry about that out-of-state residents for school employees. You do need to look at the screening questions, however, and report any yes answers to the Safe Environment Office so that we can follow up. Be sure to review the last page of all employment applications, regardless of whether it's a school or a parish application. Make sure that the person has signed and dated the application and that they have not made any, crossed out anything on this last page. Once you have a person's application and have done this review and completed any follow-up that needs to take place, you will be updating the Safe Environment database to indicate that the form is at your location. We'll find out more about that when we talk about the Safe Environment database later in this training. So be sure to file the application at a place at your parish or school where you can easily retrieve it, and then enter in the Safe Environment database that the application is on file. The next thing we're going to talk about is the check of the National Sex Offender Registry. As soon as you know of a new employee or volunteer, it is your responsibility as Safe Environment Coordinator to check the person's name on the registry. The National Sex Offender Registry is located at the website shown at the top of this page in red. You, as the coordinator, will be conducting a national check by searching for the person's first and last name. It only takes a few seconds and it's very important. Please check each name as soon as you're aware of the person, as obviously we would not want any sex offenders to be hired or to volunteer at any parish or school. Full instructions for conducting a search of the National Sex Offender Registry are available on the Safe Environment Coordinator webpage noted here at the bottom of your screen. So that's catholicnh.org/coordinators. We have written instructions as well as a video overview for you to follow. Next, we're going to talk about background checks. Each employee and volunteer will need to complete one or more background checks, and that depends on their role. We're going to look at two categories of personnel and then at the background checks that the people in those categories must complete. First, we'll talk about school employees, and next we'll talk about parish employees and volunteers. All school employees, regardless of what their role is at the school, need to be fingerprinted. Fingerprinting is completed at certain Department of Motor Vehicle offices throughout the state. Your job as Safe Environment Coordinator is to provide each new school employee with the instructions for scheduling their appointment on the State of New Hampshire portal. These instructions are located on the Forms page of the Diocesan website, catholicnh.org/forms. We will also give you a copy of the instructions during your one-on-one training. Please provide the instructions to the new school employee as soon as you know they have been offered a job. It's very important for fingerprinting to be completed as soon as possible, since all job offers are contingent upon successful completion of background checks. One thing to note regarding fingerprinting is that when a person registers for their appointment on the portal, they will need to pay with a credit card. If the school plans to reimburse the employee, you should ask them to provide you with their appointment receipt. When a person registers to be fingerprinted on the New Hampshire portal, they will also be completing a New Hampshire background check at the same time. Since fingerprinting also covers the entire United States and the person is also completing a New Hampshire check on the site, anyone who is fingerprinted does not need to complete additional background checks. Once everything has been completed, you'll see the New Hampshire background check date and the fingerprinting date appear in the Diocese of Manchester Safe Environment database. Next, we will be talking about background checks that pertain to parish employees and all volunteers who work with minors. As a reminder, all school volunteers are considered to work with minors. Parish volunteers are considered to work with minors if their assigned duties include overseeing minors. So, everyone who falls into this category must complete the New Hampshire CRR, the New Hampshire background check. And if they currently live in another state outside of New Hampshire or have lived out of state during the past 5 years, they will need to complete one or more out-of-state background checks. Here you see a screenshot of the background check form that all volunteers and all parish employees must complete. As with the other forms, this form is printable from the Forms page on the Diocesan website. Each person needs to sign in 2 sections, Section 1 near the top and Section 2 near the bottom. Once completed, please scan and email or mail these forms to the Safe Environment office as soon as you receive them so that we can process them promptly. Please note that the form does not need to be notarized and you do not need to enclose any money with these forms since payment is handled electronically. You will recall that when we discussed the applications, I mentioned that it's important that you check to see if the person has lived outside of New Hampshire during the past 5 years. Well, if the person currently lives outside of New Hampshire or has lived in other states during the past 5 years, then additional background checks are required. There are 2 additional forms that you may need to use. Just as a reminder, remember that school employees never need to complete out-of-state background checks because the fingerprinting covers the entire country. The out-of-state background checks only apply to parish employees, parish volunteers, and school volunteers. The Corey form is used for Massachusetts. This form consists of 2 pages. Page 1 is the signature page, and page 2 supplies identifying information needed for the background check. Here at the bottom, you need to verify the person's identity by viewing an ID and recording this information. The second out-of-state background check form is called a choice point form. This is used for anyone who currently lives or has lived during the past 5 years in a state other than New Hampshire or Massachusetts. It's very easy to complete, so there are no special tips for this particular form. So I just have a few background check tips and reminders before we move on. First of all, it's important to email or mail the New Hampshire forms and the out-of-state background check forms to the Safe Environment Office as soon as possible. This is because we require that a background check be completed within 30 days of a person's start date, and they will not be able to continue if that's not done. Once the background check has been received by the Safe Environment Office, we arrange for it to be processed through the state of New Hampshire or through other channels. And once we get notice that that background check has cleared, the staff of our office will be entering the date of clearance into the Safe Environment database, and you'll be able to see that by looking at the person's SED record. Background checks are renewed every 4 years, so you will be able to look at your dashboard on the SED to see which Safe Environment renewals are upcoming. That's another reason why you should be logging into the database on a regular basis. And a final point is that when school employees complete their background check renewals after 4 years, they are not re-fingerprinted. They simply use the form through the state of New Hampshire that our other parish employees and volunteers utilize. So when you have questions about that, we're happy to assist you. The last requirement for all adults who work with minors is to complete child safety training, and we often call this safe environment training. Like background checks, safe environment training is required every 4 years. It's easy to direct your employees and volunteers to the training. Volunteers can access the link from the volunteer webpage, catholicnh.org/volunteer. Employees can access it from there as well. Or they can click the graphic image at the bottom of the diocesan website main page. Many SECs have pre-made emails or paper handouts that instruct employees and volunteers how to access the training. Samples are available on the Resources for Safe Environment Coordinators webpage. Our online training, Safe Haven, is located at the secure website that is shown in red at the bottom of this slide. The training is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so it's very convenient for people to complete the training at a time that works for them. New users simply go to the website and fill out the registration information, which consists of 3 screens. After registering, the user is brought to the required training and simply needs to click on the blue button that says Start Curriculum in order to begin. Depending on a person's role, they may be assigned to more than one required training. For example, all employees need to complete sexual harassment training, and there are other required trainings for school and parish employees. The Safe Environment training consists of 3 videos. Each must be watched all the way through, but the user can pause after the video. The training covers the following topics: signs of grooming and potential perpetrators, how to protect children in your care, protecting vulnerable adults, the importance of maintaining appropriate boundaries, facts about child abuse and neglect, how to report suspicions, diocesan and state reporting requirements, and how a person can get help if they are a victim of sexual abuse. Near the end of the training, the employee or volunteer is presented with the Diocese of Manchester Code of Conduct and Policy for the Protection of Children. Within the training, they sign an acknowledgement form electronically in which they agree to abide by our diocesan code of conduct. So here are just a couple of training tips for you to know about. First of all, the dates of training and acknowledgement of the code of conduct and policy are entered into the Safe Environment database by the Diocesan Safe Environment staff. You will be able to see those dates in the database once the person has completed their training. Secondly, training, like background checks, is renewed every 4 years, and upcoming renewals are displayed on your Safe Environment database dashboard. Now I am going to briefly discuss the Safe Environment database. The SED, as we call it, is where all of the compliance information for employees and volunteers is tracked. You, as a Safe Environment coordinator, will have access to the SED for your location, and you will be responsible for entering names of people who are employed or volunteering with minors at your parish or school. As you can see here, there are a lot of things that you can do in the Safe Environment database. You can add the names of new employees and volunteers to your school or parish listing. You can search the names of existing employees and volunteers and add those to your location. You can add application location information, sex offender registry dates and comments, view training and criminal record check dates that are put in by the Safe Environment staff, edit an individual's status, and you'll be able to track the upcoming training and CRR renewal dates. The database is located at www.rcbmnh.org. So that's a good site for you to bookmark because you'll be going to the database frequently. You will receive your login information from the Safe Environment office. Once you've logged on, you will see the Safe Environment database dashboard. The name of your parish or school will be displayed near the top left, and your name will be displayed in the top right-hand corner. If you are the Safe Environment coordinator for more than one location, you can use the drop-down arrow to the right of your location name to toggle between locations. The menu for the different pages of the database is on the left-hand side of your dashboard. You will know what page you're on because it will be colored green. So here we see that we're on the dashboard. Other pages include the Employee Volunteer page, where you can look at the details of your personnel, Reports, where you can print certain types of reports, the My Account page, where you can change your password or update your demographic information, and Support Resources, where you can get instructions for using the database. You're able to see a lot of information at a glance on your dashboard. There are links that you can click on at the top that get you to your active and pending lists of personnel. There is a section on the right where you can see if you have any overdue employees or volunteers. And towards the bottom, you can see whether you have any upcoming training or background check renewals. You can also search for a person's name within your location using the field near the top left, and you can search the entire database for a name using the search field near the top right. In this screenshot, you can see that we have clicked on the Employee Volunteer tab because it's highlighted in green. Clicking on the Employee Volunteer tab gets you to an alphabetized listing of all names affiliated with your location. If you want to sort by active, pending, or inactive status, you can use the status dropdown, which is highlighted here in red. Here, as you can see, we are looking at the Reports tab. From this page, you can select your location and print reports such as your list of pending individuals or your overdue list. There is also a tab that provides you with some support resources, such as a user guide, a quick reference one-pager, and a training video. One other thing to note is that there are helpful links at the top of the Safe Environment database on every page, allowing you to quickly access the diocesan website, Safe Environment forums, the Sex Offender Registry, and to email the Safe Environment staff for assistance. Now I will end this presentation by letting you know where you can find additional information and resources. On the diocesan website, there is a Resources for Safe Environment Coordinators page. This page includes a Safe Environment Coordinator manual, plus many materials, newsletters, and other resources. The Safe Environment Office has materials for you to use in your parish or school, such as posters and reporting cards that explain how to report suspected abuse. All schools and parishes are required to display at least one poster. Please contact us if you need any. We also have a number of infographic handouts and posters that you can display or distribute. The Safe Environment Office also has materials for you to display or distribute to parents and parishioners. These include brochures for parents, handouts for school staff and volunteers about appropriate boundaries, and several handouts for coaches. We also have an informational card and a poster about our coordinator for healing and pastoral care, which includes contact information for the person who works with people who were abused by church personnel. Thank you again for serving as a Safe Environment Coordinator. We truly appreciate your service in this important role. Please contact our office at any time for assistance or further information. Thanks again.